Morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people on the call today. So it's lovely to have the first HE Hub of 2023 kicking off. Like I mentioned, we've got a few of our colleagues joining us for the demo. And today we'll specifically be exploring how you can use Power Platform across your higher education sector, across your university. We will be exploring one use case in the demo today, looking around student attendance. But essentially what we want to do is explore the art of the possible around Power Platform. What I will do as well, I'll make sure that we've got some time at the end of the session too, just to do some Q&A. So we can ask all the questions at the end and can get the guys to jump in and support with any questions that you might have. A little bit of an introduction. So Higher Education Hub. So for anyone who is new to this, got to see some familiar faces, but anyone that's newer in, this essentially was a community that was created to bring together our peers in the higher education sector. So what we look to do is discuss some hot topics that we're seeing in the sector at the moment, and then demo the technology around that to help transform your organisation. And essentially the goal is to break down your business challenges and realise the opportunities of where technology can support you on that journey. So a little bit about Crimson. So our mission statement is to unite people, processes and technology to solve your toughest business challenges. We look to do this through using iterative and agile techniques, so helping you deploy faster, realise that value quicker and validate those business cases to drive that user adoption and business transformation essentially. We are a Microsoft solutions partner, just getting used to the new terminology, but we work with some incredible organisations. So I've put a few of them up on the screen here. Really what we look to do is to use this experience that we've got within the sector, but also outside of the sector. So we work with home builders, housing associations, and some local government organisations as well, to help drive thought leadership and change. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me afterwards. I can help kind of explore and explain what we've done with them and if it's applicable to you guys. So at Crimson, we do have a number of service lines. So we've got our resourcing arm. We are part of the wider Nash Squared, as it's now called. But we've also got our specialist IT consultancy team, which is supported through our managed services arm. We've got technology practices across Azure, Dynamics 365, Modern Workplace, SharePoint, data. And what we look to do is bring together that Microsoft technology stack along with that experience that I mentioned on the previous slide to kind of bring that change to our customers and help you on that transformation journey. As I mentioned, we do have a number of the team joining today. I think one of them in particular might just be running from a train that was delayed into Birmingham. But what we will do, we'll do some introductions as they go through each of their demo sections. But as you can see, a fair few of them on the call today. So hopefully they can support on questions specifically around the technology, but also around the licensing aspect and how you can kind of leverage the licenses that you might already have in your organisation to be able to do some of these things. I will, like I mentioned at the beginning, we will kind of keep time at the end for Q&A, but if you have any questions throughout, pop them in the chat. If they're specifically related to what we're talking about in the demo, I can kind of jump in and field them. But if at the end you've got any questions that we haven't gone through, we will leave a Q&A session. So if you're comfortable to come off mute and talk it through, that would be great. If not, I can read them out, but we'll get to that in the next well, we'll leave 10 minutes at the end, most likely, for that. So specifically today, so what we wanted to do on today's session was really just to focus on how universities can leverage Power Platform. I'm sure some of you have already seen this, but just a quick recap of what the Power Platform is. So essentially, it's a collection of low-code, no-code tools that work together seamlessly to help you do more with less. This includes Power Apps, Power Automate and Power BI. So those are the ones that we'll be specifically exploring as part of the demo, and in that use case that I mentioned. But I did think it would be worth just throwing up this statistic before we get into things. So Microsoft has seen a 72% increase in Power Platform in the past year, and it's becoming a $2 billion business. So there's a lot of untapped potential there for universities, and it's something that we see Microsoft investing in a lot in the next couple of years as well. Today, we will be exploring one use case around Power Platform, and that will be looking at how you can track and report on attendance ratings across your students, lecturers, their courses, etc. What we've seen is that this is becoming increasingly important, especially with the continued move to more blended approaches to teaching and learning, and how student attendance can be really important to a couple of areas, but holding your students accountable for staying engaged, which can improve their learning experience, helping with the early identification of at-risk students so that you can intervene and provide them with the support mechanisms that they might require, and then hopefully keep them engaged in the course and keep your students, that pastoral care element of it, engaged, but also tracking that attendance from kind of the simplest terms of those that are on accredited courses might need to make sure that they're attending certain sessions, but also your international students. So I know where some international students, relating to their attendance, if it drops below a given threshold, it needs to be reported to visa requirements, etc. Tools, and if there's anything else off the back of it that you want to explore, please reach out. But with that, I will hand over to Ollie, I believe, to run through the demo.
Yeah, hi, hi, Madeline. Yeah, I've managed to make it. Yeah, hello everybody on the call. My name's Ollie Sinclair, Principal Consultant for Crimson. I'm going to take you through a bit of a demonstration, but just quickly before I do that, just touching on a couple of things that Madeline was saying. There's 72% growth in Power Platform last year, but if you look at some of the Gartner numbers around LCAP, so low code application platforms in general, it's looking like globally there's going to be a 20% increase in low code application platforms, and imagining a vast majority of that is going to be in the likes of Power Platform and other elements. So this is really, it's absolutely coming on leaps and bounds, and it's certainly we can see that this side of application development is growing exponentially, which is great news, really good news for us. So what we're going to take you through today is the use case. We're talking about application tracking. So I'm going to start this use case and start this journey within using Power Apps, specifically Canvas apps. So just a quick background, Power Apps is that sort of data capture UI element of the Power Platform, and what it really enables users to do is to capture that data, process that data, use other data sources to combine information together to be useful. And then once we've got that data in there, once we've transformed that data, then you can then start automating it with processes, and that's going to be slightly later on in the use case, and then reporting and analytics, which is much further on in this use case. But what I'm going to take you through today is really around Canvas applications. So a Canvas app, I'm going to quickly show you the designer, sort of the back end of how things look and feel, and then I'm going to take you through a demo where I've got connected to a tablet device the actual application. I'll take you through that. So the journey is the biggest problem we have in terms of tracking attendance is how to do this quickly and efficiently and get this in the system without too much effort from the students being able to do things, and also enabling the lecturers or the people in charge of their workshops to capture this information in the quickest way possible. So what we've decided to do is use the Canvas app to create a little app where a lecturer or somebody in charge of a workshop uses a tablet device, logs in, creates a lecture, and enables that tablet to scan in all of the students and register for attendance. Now, the technology we're using for scanning is NFCs, so near field communications. So this is obviously the prerequisite that, say, a student ID card or something that the university is supplying the students is enabled for NFC, and on that would be a unique identifier to identify the specific student. Now, if we had all that, brilliant. Then what we can use is the Power App to then go ahead and very quickly scan these people in at the start of the lecture, so we can really understand the attendance from the students in the lecture. So let me share my screen and I'll take you through a bit of the back end and then take you through the journey. So for you guys that have not seen Dynamics at the Power Platform before, what we'll show you is a very quick review. If I can find my screen. None of my screens are up. So behind the scenes, this is the dynamics, what a configurator would be looking at. And as you can see on the left-hand side, very Microsofty, a couple of menus. I'll just show you a couple of components that make up this application. So it is quite a straightforward Canvas application, very easy to create. A lot of what I'm showing you today is on the no code side of low code. There is a tiny little bit of code just to allow us to function with the NFC functionality in the application, but a lot of this is very much out of the box, drag and drop. What you see is what you get sort of configuration. So very much no code. Microsoft wants my feedback. That would be nice. I'll give them some feedback in a minute. So the Canvas editor itself, as you can see, what it will show you is a bit of a tree view of all of the screens in which we have in this application. So I've got a home screen, creating a lecture screen, scanning screen to enable the students to be able to scan their NFC cards, and then a bit of a lecture list to show my lectures, and that's to have a look at the previous lectures or have a look at the results and when the attendance has been captured. So the UI of this is very, very easy to modify and change. The background images, the buttons, those sort of functionality is all quite easy to capture. And as you can see down here, what I'm trying to do is the front end screens are all here. But then if I go on to data sources, one of the things around Power Platform is super powerful is not only you capture raw data, so people entering data, you can also link it from other data sources. Now what I've got in here is from the student information system, I've got some data, and that data is actually on the campus information system, and it shows me all of the room details. So rather than the application holding all of the room details for the building or for the campus, we're consuming that data from a third-party source and actually being able to present that and use that within the applications. Lecturers, attendance, and contacts actually are in my Power Platform, what we call the Dataverse, which is kind of the data area. So I'm also using and creating records using these connections as well. The tag records is around how we collect the information on the NFC tag and decode that and then present that on the screen to then go find our contacts. So we've got a lot of things here. So a couple of screens, a couple of data sources to actually run through the journey. So what I'll do now is very quickly bring up my application. I'm just going to enlarge that for you guys, just so it's a little bit easier to see. Yeah. So this would be on a tablet at the beginning of the lecture hall, and we would have jumped in, we would have logged in as that lecturer, and what we want to be doing is going and creating a new lecture. So you can see here the screen jumps to creating a lecture. What we can do there is go ahead and create a lecture. and then we can find that room. So as you can see, this is the data source from all of our rooms or our campus rooms. So I'm going to choose a couple of rooms that are merged together, and then you can enter in lecture details specifically around the lecture, maybe links to notes or whatever it is that is useful for to be captured at this stage. Now what we can do is we can save this, and this then writes a new lecture into the Dataverse, and is ready and waiting for attendance to register. Now what we're doing now is we're going to jump to the next screen to enable the NFC scanner. So if I enable the scanner, what you can see here is I've got a button at the bottom that allows to switch on the scanner. And what we would do is the lecturer would create the lecture details, set up the scanner, print it right by the door, click on the scan, and then it's ready and waiting for people to scan their NFT tags. So somebody would go along and tap onto the tablet device, and then, hey presto, Ollie Sinclair at Crimson University, I've gone ahead and checked in. Fantastic. So what we can do is we can just keep scanning and scanning and scanning and getting all of these people logged into or attended to the session. And then we can actually then, once the registration or the attendance part is finished, whether university lecturers give a grace period of 10 minutes to get everybody in the room, and then they'll take the tablet created, the attendance captured. Very, very simple, very, very straightforward, and no real messing around. So if I wanted to go ahead and just very quickly see the lectures that have been attended, I can click on lectures, and it will then query the lectures records within the Dataverse, and then I can go ahead and look at all of the people that have attended the specific event, and I can go down into all of my my lecturers that I've been doing as a lecturer. So very, very quickly, you are able to not only see the combination of combining data sources from third parties, a way of capturing and creating raw data, as well as using smart things like NFC technology within the application to very quickly track and sign in your attendees without them having to sit there and type in their name or go and find them somewhere. Using NFC communication is enabling that swift tap and away they go, and we've scanned them all in. So that was really what I wanted to, the majority of what I wanted to show you today. And what I'm going to do now is pass you over to one of my other colleagues, who's going to then now talk around the automation side. Once we've captured this data, once we've got this in the system, what can we do with it, and what things can we start automating? So I'll pass you over to Adam now, and thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you, Ollie. I will take that screen from you. Yeah, so as Ollie just mentioned, my name's Adam Round. I'm a solution consultant here at Crimson. And yeah, I'll be showing you the Power Automate, which is sort of a behind the scenes technology that in this case is helping us to link that really pretty, really cool Canvas app that Ollie's made, and basically looking at the the trigger to be at a certain time. So this one, for example, it could be it at the end of the month, on a Monday, etc., whenever. But for this example, we've just got it running on a Friday. And then after that, what it's doing is basically it's getting that data from Ollie's Canvas app. So for this instance, we're getting a list of all the attendances, and also a list of all the lectures within that given week or with that given month, etc., however you want it to run. And what we're doing after that is we are basically saying, okay, so we have in Dynamics or wherever we have stored a set amount of hours that each student is required to attend for their lecture, or for all their lectures combined. For this example, we have all of them combined. And basically what we're saying is we're looking at the attendance records for each contact, each student, sorry, and we're saying, okay, is that less than the total hours that they're actually required to attend for that period of time? So that's what this bit in the middle here is doing. It's looking at that. And what we're saying is, if it is less than that required amount of time, we're going to run down this this little section of it. If it's not, then they're attending as they should be. They're attending all the lectures that they should be, and there's nothing that needs to be done off the back of that. So, for example, if that student isn't attending, if their hours have dropped, or it could be if the days attended have dropped, whatever form of measurement you want to use, if it is below that threshold, then we can actually kick off some steps that, for this example, are going to be adding a note against the student's record, and then also sending an email to the student directly saying, hey, we've noticed that your attendance isn't quite where it needs to be. Is there anything we can do to help you about that? But really, it's just notifying them saying you really should be coming in more. So you can see here what it's doing is we're getting the actual student record. We're then adding a note to the student record. If it will open, there you go. You can see we're adding a note. Again, this is all purely for demonstration. This could be look however you want it to. It could be perhaps this adds a phone call record into Dynamics that, you know, to give the student a phone call to just sort of discuss what's going on. It could be a note like we've got here that's just dropped in on the record in Dynamics and sort of alerts people that that student's attendance has dropped, or it could be creating a record of some sort. This could be really whatever works best for you and your university. So you can see here we're saying with the title is it's dropped below the required amount and a little bit of description. But then also off the back of that, if we just close that, we're also sending an email to the student as well. So again, similar sort of text we're looking at here, just letting them know that the university has noticed that it's dropping below the required amount, and that the university staff have been informed. And also, you know, perhaps there's a reason why they aren't attending as much, and you know, maybe we could give a link to some knowledge articles sort of around about mental health, etc. Or for this example, we've just said, okay, if there's anything we can actually do, please just let us know. So that's sort of the back end of the flow. Again, quite a simple flow, Power Automate, in terms of, you know, how complex this can get. But let's have a look at what sort of this looks like just to finish it off, actually in Dynamics on that student's record. So if we just swap over, you can see, so for this example, we're going with Lewis. We're on Dynamics now. We're looking at his contact record. And what you can see, the main sort of purpose for this demo is you can see here on the timeline in the middle, we have a couple of records. So the timeline in Dynamics is a really key bit of functionality. It's really useful. It's basically a way of tracking any and all interactions that the university has with the student or that the student has with the university. So you can see here in the middle, we have a variety of different activity types. So you see we've got appointment, email, phone call, tasks, etc. Also a note, and then maybe a post as well if you're using your portals, etc. But you can see here that we actually have an example of those two records that we created off the back of the Power Automate flow coming into Dynamics and alerting people within Dynamics. Again, purely for the demo, we've decided to go this route, but it could be, for example, a notification on a phone or an email right to the member of staff that it's appropriate to go to. But again, purely for the demo, we have the note here that would just let anyone know who is going in to view Lewis's record that at this point in time, their attendance has dropped below the required amount. And then we can also have a visibility of the email that was sent out as well, so that anyone, again, looking at this record can identify that Lewis has actually been alerted and on what date and what time as well. So that was quite a quick run through. I didn't want to show you too much, get too complex about it. But again, that's just one flavor of the things you can do with that. Using Power Automate, you can do pretty much anything in Dynamics or any of the, you know, the variety of connectors that it works with as well. But yeah, that is really it from me. So Martin, I'm going to pass back to you.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Yep, let me take that screen from you. Okay, so we've seen with Ollie and Adam, we've seen the journey of actually being able to collect the data and then to be able to use Power Automate to be able to trigger activities and notifications and pretty much any other kind of requirements that you might have to kind of drive the journey within the Power Platform. And for this, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some basic introductions to sort of the Power BI platform. When we talk to a lot of our university clients, what they basically tell us is that they invest a lot of time in building out reports, and quite often the business users within the university rely heavily on their IT colleagues to be able to help them build these reports, and that causes a number of issues in terms of they might have to wait a while to get the reports because generally IT people are extremely busy. They've got lots of other things to look after within the university, so empowering some of the business users to be able to create the reports themselves is a great benefit to the university as a whole. With Power BI, it gives us different ways of actually creating the reports. And what I want to do is just quickly show you the two of them. So what I'm going to do is just start off with one of the tools, and then we'll have a quick look at the other one afterwards. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually using the Power BI desktop. So this is a client application that you can download to your machine, and as long as you have the right Power BI licensing, then you can just download this app. There's no actual cost associated with the app. It's just the licensing that you need. And what this does is this allows me to very quickly create my my dashboard. So you can see I've already created one here. So it's a bit of a Blue Peter moment. But the first thing you obviously want to do is to be able to get your data. So what I wanted to do is just point out this to you. So Power BI comes with a number of pre-configured data sources that you can use, and that can range from everything from Excel, Power BI data sets, the data flows. You saw Power 8 Automate just a minute ago. The Dataverse itself, you saw Ollie was using, the Dataverse to basically capture data. SQL Server, I'm not going to run through all of these because there's quite a list. I think to summarize just this, it's important to stress that you can take the data from a whole variety of different sources, and that can include standard Microsoft applications, but also if you're using student management systems, for example, then you could connect Power BI to those, or you could connect them to your your data warehouse or something like that to basically bring that data together. And a Power BI report or dashboard can draw data from multiple sources. So what it then allows you to do is to be able to consolidate the data that you might be holding in multiple sources and consolidate it into one dashboard. So you get that sort of all up view. So once you've got your data, what then happens is that it presents it to you in this kind of fields area on the right hand side here. So you can see that what I've done is I've just mocked up some fairly simple attendance data in a spreadsheet just for the purpose of this demo. And you can see within my Excel workbook, I've actually got four tabs. So I've got 4 tabs of data. So it's actually showing me the data here. And then what I can do is I can expand this out. So for example, if I look at attendance data, then you can see in here I've got things like actual attendance versus what the total attendance should be. I've got the school, I've got the tutor, I've got the course, and obviously attendance date in here as well. So I've got some data in here as well. So what I've done then is just use these to basically drag these out and then drop them onto the canvas that I've got here, and then basically just change the visualization so that I can present the data the way I want it to be presented. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and delete one of these off the canvas so that we can just quickly add it back on again. So just to show you how quickly that you can create these dashboards. So what I'm going to do is expand my attendance data, attendance percentages here, and I'm going to select percentage, and I'm just going to drag it out, and I'm going to drop it on the canvas where I want it. Then obviously I can do things like resize it. And notice when I do that, what you'll see is that it actually then gives me the data. So it's just listing the data for me there as a table. But what I can then do is I can then expand the visualizations tab, and then I can select that, and then I can select all my different visualizations. Now, you can see here that it gives us a lot of very exciting ways of visualizing this data, but also just to be clear about this, you can click on this button here and you can do get more visuals. And what this will do is this will take you off to the Microsoft App Store, where you can get more visualizations. So this one here, for example, this is one that I basically got off the store. It's a free one. But bear in mind that there may be costs associated with some of them if you find some on the store that you particularly like. So this one here is actually these two up here. So what this is doing is this is giving me a KPI sort of radial. So basically it does the ability to do like the red, amber, green. So you can see our attendance is actually in the green. So we are hitting our attendance targets there. So what I'm going to do is go back to my chart here, and then what I'm going to do is show this as a pie chart. So you can see that I've done my pie chart there, although it's now kind of slightly messed it up a little bit. So if I go down here, what it's actually done is it's dropped the percentage into the legend. So let me just move that down to the values. So I've dropped that in there. And then what I probably need to do is drag out the region and put that into the legend there. So you can see that I've now got my chart. So it's literally as quick as that. So, you know, once you've understand your data, got your data connected into Power BI, then actually building out the visuals is the other thing you can do is you can drag these around. So this is a bit like PowerPoint, where it does the whole snap to grid thing. So you can see you can then draw it and position it where you want it to build out your report. And then if you want to do a little bit of formatting on this, as well as sort of building the visuals, what you can do is you can go to the format your visuals here. And what this does is this splits it into a couple of tabs for you. You've got your visual. So this is where you can configure your legend, and then you can do your slices and your rotations and so on in here. But if you go to the general tab, what you can then do here is you can change the text here. So I'm just going to change this to attendance. Oops. Attendance by region. I've got my styles in here. What I'd like to do is change the background color. So I'm just going to change it to the crimson red. Black doesn't look very good on a red background. So let's change that to white. Let's make it bold. So you can see I can very quickly start to jazz this up. Okay, so that's our fields and our visualizations. Now, what we also have is we have the ability to do filters as well. So if we want to be able to put the filters on here, so you can see, for example, this is showing all my regions. But if I click on the drop down here, you can see I can filter this down into different regions in here. Now, what you can do as well is you can put filter controls directly onto the canvas, so that somebody using this doesn't have to go into the filter part of the navigation. They can actually do it directly from the canvas. So once you've got your dashboard built up how you wish, what you can then also do is you can obviously save it. I'll do a save as, but what you can also do is you can publish it. And when you publish it, what you're actually doing is you're publishing to Power BI, but this is the cloud version of it. So this is not using the desktop app. You can push this up to Power BI in the cloud. Now, I could have used this to create the dashboard in the first place. So when I said there was a number of ways of creating these dashboards, you do have the desktop app, which I've just shown you, but you can create it directly in the cloud as well. Now, I've already done that. So if I click on my browser tab here, so what I'm now looking at is Power BI in the cloud. So if I scroll down to recents, you can see my attendance dashboard is here. So if I click on the attendance dashboard, then what I can do is I can open the attendance dashboard here. And what you'll see is it'll tell me the date it was last updated. And if I look at the tab on the right hand side, you'll see that I've only got a filter tab. Yeah. So this is allowing me then to use any filters that may have been configured for the dashboard. However, there is an edit button up here. Now, again, this will come down to licensing. So obviously, if you've got somebody that's just using the dashboards and not actually building the dashboards or editing them in any way, then they wouldn't have access to the edit functionality. But if I click on the edit option here, then you'll see what it actually then does is it then gives me my my 3 panels on the right hand side again, exactly like the Power BI desktop app. So you can see here I've got my fields with all my data sources in it. I've got my visualizations, and then I've got my filters as well. So that's how you can use both the desktop app and Power BI Cloud. You'll see in here, I've also got things like the reading view. I've got the mobile layout here as well. If I select the view menu here, you can see that it gives me all different options for, things like showing grid lines, locking options, adding bookmarks, and so on onto my dashboard. And the last thing that I just wanted to show you was on the file menu, you can see this now push my Power BI dashboards out so that I can embed them into things like websites and portals, but also I can publish it to the web for people to be able to access it on the internet, but I can export it to PowerPoint as well if I want to put it into a PowerPoint presentation, maybe for a university board meeting or something like that. But also I can add it into SharePoint Online as well. And that includes Dynamics too. So within Dynamics 365 customer engagement, for example, we have the out-of-the-box dashboards that Dynamics 365 presents us with. But what I can do is I can push my Power BI dashboards across to Dynamics as well, so that I can allow users to access the Power BI dashboards in there. And just the last point on that as well, you can mix and match the dashboards as well. So you can take individual visualizations and you can add those to the standard standard Dynamics dashboards as well. So there's a lot of functionality there. I just wanted to show you some of the basic features to get a flavor for how you can use Power BI. But then obviously, as your skill develops with Power BI, you can then start to look at using some of the more advanced features that you have within the product. And at that point, I think I'm handing over to Andy.
Yes, thank you very much, Martin. Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Hicks, and part of my role at Crimson is to understand and keep up with the Microsoft licensing models. Now, who's in control of the slides?
Let me just reshare my screen quickly.
So what I've done is I put a little slide deck together. Now this is more to see the ratios of the prices. I've based it on the Microsoft commercial model. So it doesn't apply to the education space. The education space gets a significant discount on this. And there's essentially 2 ways you can get your license. You can get it through an EA agreement, which is the enterprise agreement, which is quite often direct with Microsoft, although you can get through that through license partners. And that tends to be a very fixed number of licenses you have to buy on a yearly commit. And currently through the CSB program, the higher education space is not on the new commerce experience model of Microsoft, where they ask you to commit to a year. And if you want to do it on a monthly commit, they put a 20% premium on the price. That's purely in the commercial space at the moment. So at the moment, if you go with a CSP, you can actually be flexible in the number of licenses you take. Now, for this example, we're using lecturers, so they will be considered faculty. Now, depending on what else they do and what other apps they have access to within your organization will depend on how you want to go about licensing this. If they use the Dynamics environment a lot, you may well have an enterprise license for them, which is the blue license on the left. So in order to use this app, the Power Apps license that they require will be included within that license. And I know I put 0 on there, but typically in the faculty in the CSP environment at the highest price effectively that is available. It's about £40 for that license, but that gives them access to everything. So on the other end of the scale, there's a pay-as-you-go flexible license, so that will flex monthly, and that's per user logged in per app, and that allows you not to have to define how many users they're going to be, and it bills that against your Azure subscription. Now, I'm imagining that, again, within the context of this app, that you will know how many lecturers are going to be there. There may be a little flex with stand-ins or any guest lecturers, I guess, but I think on the whole, you should know how many lecturers you'll have per year. So that then brings us to the 2 middle licenses. Excuse me, a bit of a frog. So there are 2 options, and as you can see, one is considerably cheaper than the other. The per app is how many users will log in to one specific app per month. So they can log in multiple times, but they can only log into one app. If they log into a second app, it takes a second per app license. So as you can see from the pricing, there is a sort of a middle ground of, say, if they have access to 3 apps within your organization, you would then want to start considering looking at the per user license, which will give them unlimited access to all the Power Apps within your environment. Now, as a faculty, having dealt with a few higher education environments, I believe that quite a few go through an EA agreement with Microsoft. There's some pretty good pricing and negotiation to be had there. And alternatively, if you want to have a bit more flex with the number of licenses that you have per month, then you can look at a CSP agreement with ourselves or one of the other license providers. We can certainly provide some pretty competitive pricing around that. So yeah, so in summary, really, the way I see it with this app, you really are going to go per user or per app licensing, depending on how many other apps you're running at the university. So yeah, that's pretty much the licensing piece. So if there's any questions around that, please feel free to either post them in the group or unmute and ask me.
Thanks, Andy. We do. I'll go into. I've seen there's quite a few questions that have come into the chat throughout the demo, but one just on the licensing while we're on it. Helen's just asked data usage caps on the pricing. How do they factor in?
Yeah, what I mean is, do you have limits on data? Do you have them like other CRMs and systems do? Is there a data cap? So 100,000, 200,000, whatever.
There isn't a data cap as such. There's space allocated. So I think when you first set this up, you get something like a gig of data versus space. But due to the nature of the data that we're gathering, which is basic fields, there's no big pictures or big blobs of data, email attachments and everything. The actual usage of the data is quite minimal. So we sort of modeled this up, and we can't foresee any real issues around the data.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'll just flip on to the next slide because I know there's been quite a few messages that Ollie, thank you. I know you've been replying in the chat to Bear and to Matthew. I don't know if it helps just to talk through them at all, or if you've got any questions after what Ollie has shared back, that helps just to have a bit of discussion around those. do they help clear it? I know there's quite a few questions around NFC. There, thank you. Yeah, I can see your hands raised if you're happy.
Just some feedback from yourselves in terms of institutions you've worked with. What was the sort of the impact upon the sort of the structure of the university? So was there a dedicated team created for this, or was it picked up by existing staff? How were they trained in this? Because these are all things that sort of, it looks great, but I can see where the barriers will be for sort of taking something like this on, will be just getting our staff to the point where they can use it. We're an arts institute, so we have a few foibles, and we have a lot of tutors. A lot of them are hourly paid lecturers as well. So making sure that they were comfortable with using this for, say, attendance would be an issue for us. So just really sort of any sort of experience that you can sort of share with other institutions about how they might have gone about it.
So
I was going to say, yeah, did you? Oh, go on.
No,
Madeleine,
that's okay. So this specific app, I suppose we haven't gone specifically with a university and built it out. This is kind of art of the possible, what could be done, and looking to explore. Now, I do know we've done apps with some of our other sectors as well. So Ollie, I know there's been one with is it home builders that we've done. So I don't know if that's relatable to the question from there around how we set up that governance and get the people on board with actually using the apps.
Yeah, sure. So with sort of the Power Platform technologies, totally really depends on how much has already been implemented. If you've already got Dynamics up and running, whether your IT teams have got any specialisms in that area. But if it's sort of a blue sky thinking, this is the first forage into the Power Platform itself, then yeah, there is a little bit of knowledge transfer that Crimson really install on the sort of the internal IT team to get these guys up to scratch in terms of the maintenance and understanding of the modules. But what's really good from a Microsoft standpoint is the Microsoft Adoption Framework. So there is a set of frameworks and guidelines that are published by Microsoft that partners like ourselves use to enable the right adoption of these applications to the right people, whether that would be going through quite a very straightforward understanding of if you've got lecturers or if you've got SMEs within your business that are a little bit more tech savvy, they become evangelists, they become the pathfinders of these low-code node application implementations within your business, and then you sort of utilize your internal channels to then promote those applications through the business, and then there's guardrails and guidance in terms of how that gets rolled out. But yeah, there absolutely is some learning to do in all areas. So certainly within your internal IT teams, and also sort of leaning on an implementation partner if it's a big project or a program of work that you're looking to do. But there are all sorts of sort of guidance and help out there, not only from Crimson but also from Microsoft themselves.
Thanks.
And I know also there were some questions around GDPR and data protection. I think, Ollie, that kind of feeds into a level of that as well, around setting up the right governance and bringing in that centre of excellence start kit that you mentioned in the chat.
It certainly does, yeah. So yeah, specifically on that GDPR issue, I can see where if, for example, there was no NFC technology available for the cards, for example, so how would the students be able to capture their attendance on this application? And you can go down the route of saying, okay, well, they can just go and search for their own record, right? But then that's going to be a big alarm bells ringing. So what Power Automate and what the Power Apps can do for you is, as long as you can capture data, the system is smart enough to then start matching off this data that's been captured to existing data within your systems to work out who and who's attended, etc. And that could just be capturing first name and last name, or an email address, or some sort of ID that the students are familiar with, and that can then again keep that fast tracker in terms of making sure that there's not lines and lines of people trying to enter in loads of data just to attend their lecture. I think what we're trying to do is find that technology that goes click, 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 yep, and away you go. So NFC was the obvious choice. but that's not the only thing that Power Apps can do. That there can be a lot of things that we can do to capture the data. Barcode scanning is again, something else that we could look at with Power Apps.
Excellent. Don't know if there's any other questions at all from anyone else. All right. Well, what I will do, I'll just move on to the next slide if there aren't any. Obviously, if there's anything that comes up after this, we do have just a QR code on the screen here. So if you've got any questions or anything, feedback around this, it'd be really great if you could scan that and fill that out. And also what we can do off the back of that is arrange other possible sessions. So really explore, okay, this has given a taste of what it looks like generically, but what actually could that mean for your university, your organisation, or what other things could be explored around Power Platform separate to this specific use case. We do also have our LinkedIn page that's shared on the screen here on that second QR code. This essentially is just a page where we look to share blogs, articles, events like this one on there. There's a lot of content going on there at the moment. So if you're interested, jump on that and see kind of what else is going on in space. If there aren't any other questions, I know we've got a couple of minutes, but we do have our next higher education hub that's at the end of March, where we'll be talking about how you can make the most out of your Microsoft investment through our Paragon service offering. So it would be great to see as many of you there as possible, but keep an eye out on that, and we will be sharing that via the LinkedIn page. And I think Emily and our marketing team will be letting you all know about that when the date's booked in. I will just check the chat once more to see if there's anything else. If there is anything, and it's great to see as well that there's some conversations happening between you guys on the chat as well. That's exactly what we want this to be. We want it to be a community that can talk and discuss and share, and if we can support on that, then all the better. So I will leave it there for now. You'll get sent the recording out afterwards if anyone is interested in rewatching it. But if not, thanks everybody, and hope to see you on the next one.
Have a good day, everyone.
Cheers,
Thank you.
everyone.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.